All right, we are back for your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 521. And as you can see, if you're watching the video, Brianna is back from her 2 week, not vacation, her 2 week separation from the show, we'll call it, to deal with some all kinds of stuff, moving and life. So,
Life.
welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I missed being here. Hopefully you guys had a good time.
Yeah, we had a couple of good shows with Tim and Karsten. So, but it's good to have you back. And yeah, what's happening? What's anything you want to share?
Yeah, so I am in the Northeast now, temporarily in Pennsylvania for a little bit while we get our new place in New York ready. So yeah, we're just like in this transition and, just enjoying some time with some of my family up here. And, I'm glad it's summer. It's like nice to have more outside time and yeah, but been running around lots of family stuff. So I've been like jetting all over the place to deal with, extended family and saying goodbye to family and all of those things. So been busy, but now hopefully settled for a little bit here and then we'll make our way over to New York in the next, 6 weeks probably.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, it's you're sort of on your way, we'll call it, right? Sort of in between, but you're getting there, and it'll be good once you can finally settle in New York and start to build things there. But, yeah. Yeah, so we're excited to have you back. We've got a good show this week, 4 stories as per usual. Some interesting, little different things this week. Kind of focusing on some out of home stuff and, some more merger activity in our industry and things like that. So I'll let Ariana start us off as per usual with our first story.
Yeah, I really like this story. This one's really great. So this comes from Australia, and there's a blend of O Media, which is OOH exclamation point media out of Australia, large company there, is working with Orange Sky, and they're doing a very, very cool campaign. So they're doing this first free mobile laundry service for people who are experiencing and dealing with homelessness. So they're providing, free access to laundry and shower services all across the country of Australia. And, they're really running this campaign to raise awareness that, homelessness can really affect anybody, because there's a lot of different reasons why people experience that, including, it could be bad health. It could be just, a financial hardship, all kinds of different challenges. And nobody's really immune to it. So they really want to raise awareness for this. And so they're doing this with QR codes. So they're running all of this out of home media that's across bus shelters, retail, railways, road assets, and they're doing this until early July. And so you can just, donate this. And so they're saying that basically, they have more than 37,000 digital and static asset locations. That's a pretty extensive network. So all of those things across like airports, retail centers, as I mentioned, office towers, cafes, all these different places that they'll be able to run this. And they want to help support and fund Orange Sky's ambition to help significantly, expand the work that's being done by volunteers next 12 months and really help people who've been through, all of these difficulties. Like I had mentioned, like family and domestic violence, housing and affordability issues, relationship breakdowns, all these different things that are affecting them. So I think this is really great. And, it reminds me of how we always talk about our friends over at Samaritan app and the work that they're doing to help fight homelessness and how you can kind of donate, but just using mobile, using out of home, using technology to empower and really just help, fight social challenges like homelessness and really help others. So I love this. I think this is a great opportunity, and something as simple as, laundry and showering, like that we take for granted so often. So many people are without. And so just being able to have that, I think, is really important. And it's all about like we hear, Jonathan talk about from Samaritan all the time, it's really just about realizing that people are people, like they're all human and they crave that interaction and they just want to feel like a normal person. And, what's more normal than just being able to take a shower and put on some clean clothes, right? Just to make you feel good about yourself and remind you that like there is hope. So I love this. I think it's a great campaign. And I'm hopeful to see even more campaigns like this continue to roll out.
Yeah, I love this story as well. I'm a sucker for any of these kind of social good cause based implementations. So, yeah, I mean, you referenced Samaritan, which we had at our Retail Loco conference a little while back in Seattle, and kind of the work they're doing with homeless individuals, and trying to sort of their slogan is walk with, not by, and kind of recognizing they're real people. They're there because of circumstance and whatnot, and helping you to understand those stories. And I think, similarly, this campaign, I like the mashup with the out of home and using the bus shelter space and things like that. The simplicity of QR codes, which, obviously are super popular again, and being able to kind of just donate that way to a campaign. And I think it's super easy, from that point of view, and makes it just accessible to so many people to participate. And as you say, it meets a need. Like these people, fresh clothes, a shower. I think just having that makes you feel better, right? Makes you feel a little bit better. I know when I get up in the morning, just having that hot shower and just feeling, refreshed, feeling energy coming from it, and what that does for me to set the day off right. So like I think it's just great that they're recognizing that need, and finding a way to do it, and bring it to sort of everybody, sort of en masse through a campaign like this makes a ton of sense. So I love it. And what I don't know is if on the sort of the posters and so on that are showing in the digital signage that's happening in the bus shelters and whatnot, if they're sort of highlighting any particular individuals, that are on the streets or things like that, that'd be cool too if you can kind of put a face with it. Hopefully they're sort of engaging at that level and sort of tying in at that emotional level too. So, really like this campaign.
Yeah.
All right. On to our second story. So, LBMA member, we haven't talked about for a long time now on the show, is a company called Rockbot. And they've teamed up with another LBMA stalwart, Clear Channel, to basically launch a sort of new campaign around Clear Channel's airport out of home network. So, sort of sticking in the out of home industry. CNN kind of shut down their sort of in-airport TV network, that was, there in many U.S. airports. And, Rockbot has basically teamed up with Clear Channel to step in and sort of fill the gap. And so they've announced this new partnership to replace that with content that's aimed at inspiring, entertaining, and informing travelers, is how they describe it, with sports, news, entertainment, and lifestyle content. So it's much broader than just sort of the CNN kind of news content that was there before. Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Rockbot, this is a company that we have a long history with at the LBMA. Started with doing audio based delivery of networks in sports bars and things like that, and kind of creating content connections with an app to the content on the screen and things like that. So, a company that's been at it for a while, persisted, done well, raised capital. Garrett and the team over there, congrats. This is a huge deal, I'm sure, for you guys. And so specifically, it's going to feature on the stock market and business side content from Bloomberg. And then obviously that fits well into the airport community, and then kind of bring in content from concession partners and other people in the airport, and kind of open it up that way as well. So I think it's really neat. I think it's an interesting partnership, and a good evolution for Rockbot. Maybe, who knows, leading to an acquisition at some point.
Yeah, definitely could be. It's interesting, and it what really makes me curious is like why CNN stopped, or why they were pushed out of the airports. Like if it was just Was it political? Was it, like what was the reason for it? But it's a great opportunity to see somebody who's, not at the same level of a CNN kind of, making their way into the space through this partnership. And it's great to see a member company, obviously, as well, getting a good opportunity to do this. And like you said, diversify kind of what's being shown beyond the news. So I think that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like especially the timing's really interesting as travel's starting to rebound and people are going to back traveling through airports, have that dwell time while you're waiting to board your flight and all of that. I think, there's a lot of sort of captive, audience there, right? To that you can reach and especially if you're concessions or whatnot. I think there's an interesting thing there, and maybe want to take it one step further, just sort of thinking out loud. There's a lot of we've covered a lot of different airport based app solutions. A lot of the airlines like United, for example, have mapped out using beacons and so on, indoor positioning technologies inside of airports like O'Hare, and being able to tie that into using your loyalty points to redeem at restaurants or concessions within the airport. It'd be interesting if there was a tie into the digital signage content connected to something like that. So perhaps there's opportunities there to evolve this even further. So
Yeah,
very
for
interesting.
sure.
All right.
Well, another company that we've talked about not too long ago, NextNav, and they are going public by acquisition. So they've been acquired by Spartacus, which I had to look up, and it's just kind of an acquisition company out of McLean, Virginia, it looks like. But basically, they are going to be renamed under the NextNav, and they will be available publicly. So if you're interested in, finding them on the stock market, you can. So they're expected to use all the proceeds that they're getting from this acquisition to grow NextNav's next generation, their three-dimensional geolocation platform across a $100 billion global total addressable market. So they'll be continuing to serve things like public safety, E911, the market consumer apps, all the autonomous vehicles, the IoT work, infrastructure work that they are involved in as well. And across a bunch of variety of sectors that they're already playing in, but continuing to invest in that. So they NextNav, had already developed a lot of leading differentiated services. So they have this three-dimensional location that intelligence that they provide, and they work with companies like AT&T, FirstNet, Motorola Mobility, Gimbal, who we know well, Epic Games, and a bunch of other location-based applications that they're embedded in and working with. So they will, like I said, they'll be available at common stock. It's going to be under NN and NNW. So if you want to follow them and see what's going on. But kind of what they're really acquiring is a lot of their intellectual property. They've got over 100 patents, one of a kind portfolio licenses for like tons of different things, including a deployed network that's live in over 4,400 cities. They cover over 90% of all buildings that are taller than 3 stories nationwide. So obviously, an interesting acquisition, I would say, but probably really good for NextNav, a good opportunity to really grow that, and continue to invest in some of the things that they have their hands in. Being out of McLean, Virginia, it kind of made me wonder, like, is there a lot of government influence here? Like, what does that look like? Is this something that, who else does this other company work for, since we haven't really heard much from them in the past? So it'll be interesting to see, like, what's the future look like for NextNav now that they are public. I know that changes things quite a bit sometimes. But obviously they have a pretty strong foundational aspect to a lot of the work that they've been laying around their navigation. And they have a pretty wide variety of applications where they're involved in. So it'll be good to see them grow. So.
Yeah, no, I think this is a huge move for them and for the industry. I mean, obviously, being a public company is a whole different ballgame, as you just alluded to, and especially a public, company in the location ecosystem, at this size. I mean, it's valued at over $1 billion, is what they're talking about here. And there's some interesting. I was looking into some of the groups that are behind the funding of this. You have the Koch family, the Koch brothers involved in this, and you know. A number of others, Quant Lab and some others, and so there's strong political connections here. There's strong government relationships here. So, like I see a lot of opportunity. For where NextNav is going to go here. Like you, I wasn't familiar with Spartacus either. I had to look them up, and so it seems like it's like a investment holding company, portfolio type company. But it's interesting that they're kind of taking the name NextNav, as they move forward here with this, sort of new version of the company. And so yeah, just excited for the team there, and a lot of our friends over the years of the industry that are part of NextNav now, Dan and so on. So yeah, it's I think there's a lot of opportunity in this industry, and I think that the sort of the 3D aspects of what they do, are really unique. Some of the work they've been doing in the gaming ecosystem is really interesting as well, and we see that about to explode. So, hopefully this just means, more fuel to continue to expand and grow and do some interesting things. And I think, with that, sort of reading between the lines here, a lot of influence, I think, as well over shaping, different aspects of where the location industry is going to go. So, very, very interesting announcement. So we'll just have to watch and see, I guess, and maybe we'll get some inside information from some of our friends over there that can help us figure it out a bit more. So, but congrats. All right, final story, kind of coming a little bit back to sort of the outdoor signage world again. Not quite the same thing as what we were talking about with sort of traditional out of home, but this time we're talking about e-paper. So e-paper is a relatively newer technology concept. It's been around for a while, and it's just sort of, I think, hitting mainstream now, where we're starting to see brands and retailers use it a lot in pricing on shelves and things like that in stores and so on. And this is an implementation using e-paper that's powered by solar power, which is really cool, at a Bavarian ski resort village in Oberstdorf. We see, I should have brought this story on for Karsten last week. He could have probably told you he skied there 1,000 times or something. But anyhow, so what they've got here is, sort of this signage navigation system. So, you're in the ski resort, you're in the village, and they've got these signposts that are kind of just there. And we've all sort of been to amusement parks and theme parks and zoos and different types of things where you see these sort of signposts, and they've got like kind of the one thing coming off the post saying 1 kilometer this way for this part of the pavilion, and 1.2 minutes walk to this over here, and those kinds of things. And that's what we're talking about here. The difference is instead of those being fixed signage, these are real-time updated signage using e-paper that's solar powered. So current calendars and events, could be current weather forecasts, what's going on in the ski slopes, what the trail conditions are, all that kind of stuff, wait times for lifts, all of that, and sort of all done in sort of a real time, sort of keeping with the sort of look and feel and the format of the Bavarian Village ski resort, not having a big giant digital screen out there, like a typical signpost here with like these little things coming off of it in different directions and kind of, being able to change in real time. So I quite like this. Contents refresh over a 4G cellular network. As I said, the power is solar, which is really cool and obviously efficient and friendly. So I don't have a lot more to say about it. It's really a neat implementation. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of, when we first, one of the first places that we lived in Atlanta was in the city. like Little Five Points, Candler Park area, if you're familiar with Atlanta at all. And on DeKalb Ave, it's 3 lanes. And so depending on traffic, they have like a middle lane that sometimes is going, one direction and other times is going the other direction. So they have like just the green arrow that lets you know which time is, available for that side of the lane. And when there's not available, it's like a red X, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity within, traffic and things like that to incorporate things like this with the solar power where you can change things, maybe just update it, based upon like if there's road closures or if there's like traffic issues. I know a lot of those are really wired into a lot of the electrical, but I like the idea of the solar because you're not necessarily reliant on a grid all the time, and it's powered, and it's obviously a little bit better for the environment as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to expand this beyond something simple like the signs inside of a ski resort. And that could even be like, within retail, like mall locations, or, even more of like the tourist things like Disneyland, Disney World, places like that. So there's a lot of applications for this e-paper to expand into. And I love the idea that it's solar powered. And yeah, it's like, it's simple, but there's a lot of good applications, I'm sure, that we'll be seeing rolling out more in the future. So it's cool.
Yeah, it reminds me like years ago now, as you were talking, I was just trying to Google here. So I think Rob and I, on one of the shows, I'm talking like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. We covered a company, I think it was out of New York, and they had created sort of a wayfinding digital signage thing, similar look to this. But one of the things I remember about it is that like it was on like sort of like a signpost, but the actual little signage pieces that come off of it could actually rotate and move around, and change direction and stuff too. So it was a neat little sort of wayfinding sign. I think it was called Points. I was trying to find it quickly, but yeah, for anyone listening out there, you maybe just Google Points in New York City, wayfinding sign or something. But yeah, long time ago. I'll have to dig up what show that was on. It was ancient times. But yeah, like this is super cool. I think it's neat. I think it's a great way to kind of show the value and simplicity and power of what you can do with e-paper. Yeah, so that's it. That's our show for this week. You've been listening to episode number 521 of Location Weekly. Thank you, everybody. Brianna, welcome back. And for those listening and watching, if you have story ideas, reach out to us. Give us some love on whatever podcast platform you're consuming this on. And we'll see you next week with 522. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.